Hey, everybody. How you doing? How you doing? Welcome to the Tarot Flow Show. Hello, everybody. My name is Alison Pickering, and I am very happy today to be welcoming you to the Tarot Flow Show. And it is so exciting because we have some special guests today, co-hosting today. And let me bring it up so we can see everybody clearly. Co-hosting today and this is a Scandinavian show today, everybody. We have Copenhagen, we have Stockholm, from Stockholm, our Swedish savant. He is adorable, spiritual. He's my friend. He has been so solid, and he has the way to display the tarot cards. I'm going to give you a kind of day-to-day interpretation and show you how I'm doing the interpretation. And then Kefri's going to augment with his spiritual levels and his insights. And let us welcome Kefri Skarabus. Welcome, Kefri.
Thank you, Alison.
It's nice to have you. Our special guest today, she's a business system genius. If that wasn't enough, when she hit 40, she said, I'm going to have kids. And she had 4 kids in her 40s. And so for that reason, if she wasn't one before, she had to become a time master. She is a black belt in many business systems, and she is a time master, and that is her business. And I am so happy to welcome the beautiful Danish queen, CHRISTY KRUSE. Yay, CHRISTY, welcome to the stage. Thank you for joining us today. So nice.
What an intro. Thanks, Alison and Kefri.
So, CHRISTY, you are wonderful because many reasons, but one of the reasons I find you wonderful today is because you got a lot of guts. And what that means is that you have a very adventurous spirit, and you agreed to come on this show without ever having had any tarot experience, which I think is really exciting. We do some kind of spiritual stuff in here, and we entertain ourselves with it. And I hope that this is an okay topic for you today. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm very welcome. I'm glad to be here. And the only thing I've heard about tarot is from the movies and from documentaries. And I'm used to structure and having it a certain way, but I'm flexible and I'm curious. So
wonderful.
This is why I'm enjoying. I'm glad to be here, seeing where we end.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, we're glad to have you. And let's give a quick orientation just so people know kind of the vocabulary of images that we're going to be working with today. And we're going to take a look now at the flow for today. And so we've had a chance to very briefly meet you, CHRISTY. And for those of you who are a fan of the channel, in a couple of days or weeks, we haven't scheduled it yet, but we're going to have an interview on the Follow Your Road show with CHRISTY KRUSE. So we're going to find out more about her very interesting life because she's done a lot of stuff, and she may not look it, but she's lived a few years. And so we're going to have a chance to learn more about her. But what we're going to be doing right now is kind of a cold read, where we're going to focus on a card just to unpack it and show everybody how the tarot cards works and how they work and what kind of symbolism even a single card might have. We're going to make some connections, and then we're going to jump in and do a reading. And all of this, I live in Los Angeles, and some of our co-hosts are also in Los Angeles, and this is a Hollywood movie town. A lot of movies, a lot of films get made here, and all over town at the end of the year, you see these big advertisements which say, for your consideration, and it's to get votes for the Academy Awards, which are the big movie awards, the Oscars. And so let's consider it. This is for your consideration. I'm not saying that this is the total reality. We're not predicting that this is your future writ in stone. Not at all. What the tarot is, it's an opportunity for us to get kind of an expanded snapshot of now, and an opportunity for us to really look at the symbols and how that might help us to reflect on now, to make us more powerful and more informed and more wise as we move into our own futures and as we make our own futures. And so that's the way I really want to approach that here. So let's take a look at some of our images that we're going to be working with today as we go into this. And our main image in the tarot is the Fool. He is the spirit unmanifest. He is everyone. He's zero. He's a lot of things. But what he is for sure is willing. That's why I appreciate you, Christy. You're willing. You're like, let's see, let's jump into this. And that's what the Fool does. He jumps into his next incarnation, shall we say. And then when he is, then he goes through this journey, and we have the major arcana of the tarot, and we can see the 21 of those 22. The Fool is the 22nd card. And we can see these different aspects of the soul's journey. You can see the Magician and High Priestess. That's kind of a masculine and feminine spiritual polarity. You've got the Empress and Emperor, the earthly mother and father, the Teacher in the Hierophant. The Lovers is our relationship with others. The Chariot, our movement in the world. Strength, our battle with our own passions. Hermit, our dealing with our own solitude. Wheel of Fortune, luck, other people's trajectories. Justice, law. The spiritual laws, the earthly laws, the municipal laws, all that stuff, and the Hanged Man. Sometimes you agree, you don't agree. Sometimes you have to do what everybody says. Sometimes you have to do what you say. And that can put you in a different position. Sometimes there are changes that can't be avoided, and they just march through your life. And that's represented with that Death card that tests us, and we have to stay on track with the Temperance card. The Devil is being obligated to contracts, mortgages, promises, just the laws of the earth, our own passions, our own ego delusions. When those ego delusions get too ridiculous, reality will often come in and lightning strike and take us out of our delusions. Then we are left to our hope, to the moony emotions, to the sunny liberation, to the new beginning of the Judgment card, and then again, the victory and portal into a new beginning, a new go round with that World card. So that's one part of the tarot cards. The other are the suits. And very quickly, we can see our wands, fire, our cups, water, our swords, air, and our pentacles, earth. Why is there a 5-pointed star? Why is there a pentagram on the pentacle? Because we interact with the earth in this 3D realm using our 5 senses. It's not a witchcraft thing. It's really just about the earthiness of that card, because we interact with the world using our senses. Our minds have the thoughts, which are the swords. Our heart has the feelings, which are the cups. And somewhere from our spirit comes our intuition, which is the wands. Here are those wands, 1 through 10, like the progression of an idea. And then we have 4 court cards over here. Let me just lose this logo so we can see them. Here's our cups, 1 through 10, the progression perhaps of a relationship. And then all that water in the court cards, with the water, the fish, the lotuses, the shells. Then we have the swords, that airy intellect. Christy, you said before, we think with our minds, we think with our hearts, we think with our guts. Well, this is the mind thinking, uninformed by the rest of it. This is just the plans. It's kind of cold, right? And so here we have those cards, very airy, very cool. And then warming it up into the earth now. Progressions of a relationship, perhaps, or a project, or a business. And all the earthy symbols in there. So those are our majors, and then we're going to do a little reading with Christy. We'll look at that in just a moment, but let's back up here to our majors, Christy, our Fool and our majors, and let's bring us back in. And might there be, Christy, one of those cards which is particularly intriguing to you for us to unpack? Is there one that you think of, maybe you identify with, or that kind of piques your interest?
One you mentioned before. It's like me getting in a competition mode. When people say you can't, some people end up in the man hanging down with his head. But
yes,
when
indeed.
when I get in such a situation, it's more like, okay, some people say I can't. I have to find a way of getting a solution. And that is
Wonderful.
why I ended up with 4 kids in my 40s. So it's like...
You're very decisive.
At
Indeed.
least sometimes we can be lucky to get kids, and some people are not that lucky. But at least I give my best.
And you will be very pleased to know, Christy, that the number for structure is 4.
Oh, that's fun. So that's why
So
I didn't. What just went to be kid number 3. It got to be twins, so it had to be. This one.
Oh, I see. So you couldn't even do the 3. So congratulations on the twins and all your on your 4 wonderful children. So Kefri, with what Christy has said, what card do you think we should pick to unpack with her today? I'm going to pull this display down, and you're going to put
I
yours up.
think
You're going to surprise us with a card. Why not that? He's going to
I
surprise
think
us with a card.
I think should I just from the discussion should I choose
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
and put here? Then I do that. We should see here. There you go.
There you go. All right. So let's take a look at this Hanged Man. Firstly, it might be an uncomfortable position, but he doesn't look too uncomfortable. So this is not this is in his comfort zone to be his own man, her own woman, to determine her own direction. You'll notice the tree is alive. The pose on the body is almost like a tree pose in yoga. There's a halo on this figure. The expression on the face is not painful. So this is the idea that this reversal or this difference from others is a virtuous thing. And any time that you spend in those kinds of periods of censure or a paralysis came to mind, but suspension or just sometimes it can be like you've made your passport application and it's still not coming and it's still not coming and it's still not coming. You're like, what's going on? That can be another small aspect of the Hanged Man, is this idea of just not being in control of your own time. That's probably a big button pusher for you, Christy, being the time manager that you are. But this idea of not having that, but it also does go to that idea of the strength of the will to go against the mainstream. Kefri, what else do you see there? And then Christy, you'll see what you see in there.
I see you was talking about, Christy, that somebody says you can't and you say yes, I can or we can. And this card, I choose it because this is a card, you can see the yellow light around his head, and that is his enlightenment in this situation. And I thought that was what you were saying. Even if it looks impossible, you know it can be done actually. And there is also a secret in this card with the colors, because the blue and the red color actually corresponds to strength. And it is the strength that is horizontal in this because he is hanging, and it's vertical. Horizontal strength is here and now, and that's not much of a development, but the vertical strength is a development, because then we can build a strength into another subject that we hasn't had before actually. So that is what I see in this card. And also the symbology for this card is water and feelings, and that could also be what we need to look into in ourselves, to see my feeling is stopping me, my anxiety is stopping me from this, and perhaps I should turn things around to see if I am able to do it after all.
And this is not a prescription for you right now, Christy. These are just kind of some more of the general interpretations around this card, the general meanings of this card. What do you see as you look at this? Because everybody connects with images in a different way. We all have a right brain and a left brain, and these cards really help us access that right brain. What do you see when you look at this?
Two major things. When you mentioned, it is a tree he's hanging on, the person is hanging on, but his way he stands, the figure, is actually a yoga pose that looks like a tree, where you stand up with your knees out and into. So it's like he's standing in an inverted tree. And I have been to sessions where people are saying it's good to have your head down because the blood comes in your body. So it's not negative. Yeah, if you stand all day, that's not good. But if a shorter while, it's good to have blood flowing in your mind. So it's not just negative. But if I just read the word, the hanged man, it was people would say, oh, it's an overwhelmed person, totally stressed, everything is bad, down. But there are green leaves, so it's not impossible. Yeah, and you mentioned the green and the blue. No, yellow and the blue. And I think of Sweden, the national flag.
Yeah, and then you got the blue and the red for Norway, and then we can the red and the white for Denmark. You're right. Yeah. And then another aspect to the colors here is that the blue, the yellow, and the red are primary colors, and from these are everything made. And so this is an indication that this kind of stance is fairly high up on the tree of life. I don't know if the Kabbalistic tree of life has any resonance for you, but the idea is kind of like a Jacob's ladder back to our origins. And so this is operating fairly high on that ladder in terms of the power of creativity within that reversal. So sometimes also another way of thinking of this is like when we're on the Pacific coast, and on the Pacific coast, waves are really big and it takes them a while to draw back and draw back and draw back, and then they come forward. And so this is kind of like that drawback period where it seems like nothing's happening, but it's where the power is getting developed. And so that's another aspect of this Hanged Man card. So there you go. Any other words around this Hanged Man before we move to the to our reading?
No?
It's one thing. The primary color is also, as you were saying, Alison, high up in the tree of life. But if we don't know anything about the tree of life, we can say that this is where you find a higher form of intuition that you wasn't prepared to find, actually.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to come on back and take a look. We'll get a quick review of our images. Again, there's our majors with our main character, our Fool, our major arcana, and here's our minors, the Wands, the Cups, the Swords, and the Pentacles, just so we all have a sense of the kind of vocabulary we're working with, the image vocabulary. And now we're going to go into this reading. And so let's take a look at the structure of the reading. Our Chariot is there because he's number 7, and we're doing a 7-card reading today. At the top middle, you can see it says you, or the topic, or the issue at hand. So this is going to be what we call our significator. And then on the bottom, we have like a timeline, like a time arc, a past, present, future. This it could be current, so that we're experiencing the present in the now. The future is coming up and the past is behind us. That's one way. Or we've discovered this in other readings. Sometimes we discover that we're reading something that happened that was really important to the person. And what we're seeing is a little story of what happened, and then kind of a moral of the story with that big card that we'll have. And then at the top, in the smaller cards, on the left of the issue, we can see some cautionary advice. You may tend to maybe want to do this, but it's maybe better not to, or avoid that. But for your greatest growth, for your greatest benefit, for the greatest, the greater good of all, the card on the right, that supportive card, would be recommended. And then at the end, we'll pull another card to kind of get a not the moral of the story, but rather an additional consideration for us to use as a lens to this whole reading and experience. So what questions might we have at this point? How are we doing? Does this feel like it's viable? What do you think? Any questions?
No.
Okay. One just fell down. Here we go. The one that jumped, by the way, is that Emperor card. That's the number 4. He's the king of structure. So you're a happy girl with a structure. This might or might not be a comfortable experience for you, because the number 1 rule in tarot is that there are no fixed and concrete meanings. It is an interpretive medium. The purpose of it is to trigger our intuition. And anybody who tells you that it means this and must mean this is really selling you a bill of goods, in my opinion. Meaning that they may be deceiving you, or they're giving you a very inaccurate picture of the power and purpose of tarot.
If you were talking to a younger version of me, I was much more, I need structure. With Asian, with experience, and with 4 small kids, it was okay. Much more flexibility, and it's still okay.
Still okay. All right. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and pick our first card, which is going to be the one in the top middle. Just a quick review of our reading. We're going to do this issue. Then we're going to do the timeline and the bottom. Then we'll do our advice caution, our advice positive, and then our overall card here. All right. I'm going to go into the mode here. I need to switch gears. I've been in like teaching hosting mode. Now I have to go into intuitive mode. So here we go. I basically, the cards are snaked out like that. And I'm going to go ahead and just choose them based on where my eyes kind of fall. And I'm going to bring the camera and get this kind of out of the way a bit. Okay, Christie's. All right. 3 of Pentacles is our issue. What was going on in the past? 8 of Swords. Present time. 2 of Swords. Thinking. Future card. Knight of Wands. Cautionary card. The Sun. Good advice. Best, the greatest good for all. Knight of Swords. It's a swordsy reading today. And then, Kefri, maybe you can pick the overall card as we get towards the end of the reading, something like that. It's fun, Christy. Sometimes in our little study group, we'll trade it around, and each person, like the one in LA, the one in Pennsylvania, the one in Stockholm, the one in Mannheim, and each person picks a card, and then we read the cards. It's a lot of fun. So here we go. I'm going to start off. You're in a collaboration mode right now. Let's go ahead and put that 3 of Pentacles up, Kefri.
Yeah.
So right now, things have gone from the planning into the concrete. And so now you are beginning to bang out some actual projects with some people, and you are in complementary roles. You can see you've got the craftsman on the bench there, and he's getting ready. He's the mason with his apron, and he's going to be carving the stone. And then you have the architect, and then you have the kind of patron, who's that monk, because they're the money behind it, right? And so you have all the people here who are involved in the various aspects of this project. And so I wouldn't be surprised if right now you too were figuring out how you can collaborate with other people to see how you can join forces, blend skills, present a strong structure, something viable that can be out in the marketplace or for people to come into, like this church would be. In terms of the timeline, looking at that 8 of Swords, Kefri, we can take a look at the 8 of Swords. And in the past, you didn't know what to do. You were inching your way along, doing the best you could. You have a strong mind. The 8 is the card, and 8 is the number of strength. The card Strength is the 8 card. And in this case, you have a strong mind, but not yet a direction. You're making your way the best you can through this difficult maze, which might be of your own making. So with this card, it's always important to see, are all of those obstacles real, or are they my own obstacles that I've put up with my own thoughts? And so that's something worth considering, that you may have been blocking yourself with your own notions, or it may have just been circumstances and you just concluded that you could not make a move because you couldn't see enough and you weren't free enough. Now, interesting, look at the condition of this person, and then let's look at the condition of the next person. Now, this person is no longer tied up. She's still blindfolded, but she's no longer tied. And if she wanted to, she could put the swords down and take her blindfold off. But she's still, just like with the other one, she can still kind of see underneath the blindfold and get a sense of the ground underneath her, see her feet. Very important to see your feet, get a sense of where you're going. And right now with that moon and with the rough water behind her, there's the idea here of you're not wanting to make a decision at this point. You've made the decision on some level. The ace is some decisiveness that's already happened. And now you're into the actual beginnings. The actual beginnings are hard because you cannot see what's coming. You've only just begun. And so it's hard to know what actions to take and what plans to make until you have some results to gauge and until your emotions calm down. So it's probably smart that you're holding off making a decision right now because the emotions are too windy and the moon is not full and it's a little bit not propitious at the moment. However, coming in the future, so let's look at the Knight of Wands on the right and then look above it just in that Knight of Swords as the recommendation. So the recommendation for sure is action. Okay. And it looks like that's going to be part of your future now with that Knight of Wands. So let's look at that Wands just to get our timeline complete. So it may be that this is already the action you're taking. This is depicting how it was in the past. You were frozen, then you were waiting to make a decision with more information, and now it's on. That could be the situation here. Or maybe that's what's coming in the future, is this inspiring thing that you want to get into, which is this Knight of Wands. And so as we are in here, we'll get a better sense of that. Looking back up at the top row, the Sun card is in the not recommended position, which is pretty interesting. And so the way I would interpret that is, don't feel you're not quite out of the woods yet. You can't quite run around naked yet. You can't there may be some walls that you have to handle behind you or in front of you. Look at how many horses are in this reading. We have 3 horses in this reading. But it's interesting that the horse that's under the sun, this white horse under the child on that Sun card is heading in one direction, but these other horses are heading in a different direction. I don't know exactly what that might mean, but it is worth considering that the recommendation card and your future card are all heading towards the west, so to speak. And it's the same sort of direction that blindfolded person on that 8th card is facing, so kind of maybe the southwest a little bit. And who knows? That could be Houston. I don't know. I don't know what's on your mind, but it could be. But the idea is that you're going from planning and collaboration now into it's on, it's moving, it's in action. And so looking at the advice card again, back to that Sun card. So you're not on your way into your proverbial next sunrise, if that's the East metaphor we want to use. You're not into your next day. You're still finishing your current day, and you have to make it all the way to the sunset kind of thing. But the advice, now let's look at the positive advice. So the advice on the negative here, or on the cautionary, is don't feel too free. Don't get too loose. Don't avoid being frivolous. Avoid drawing immature conclusions. Avoid deciding from what your baby wants versus what your adult wants in terms of your own self. What does your child want versus what does your adult self want? Those decisions are in play. Now, the Knight of Swords on the right is interesting because he often has made the decision, and he's kind of one of those shoot now, aim later kind of people. But this is the advice. So this advice is telling you, go with your idea. Whatever idea that you've been holding off on in that 2, I think it's time to really go with that. I think it's time for you to take action, and it's going to bring new energy into the situation. So the decision of that Knight of Swords to like pull the trigger, so to speak, and get into motion is going to then come back to that Knight of Wands in your future, which, Magnus, maybe you wouldn't mind showing that Knight of Wands.
Yeah.
And even though it feels too soon, look at this knight, that other knight. Go back. I'm sorry. Go back. That other knight. Even the horse is like, oh my God. So you may not feel like your vehicle is ready yet. And your vehicle may not be ready, but you're going to have to kind of build it as you fly it. So maybe the front legs are ready, but we can't even see the back legs on this one, right? And so, but you can get the front legs going. You can get the front legs on the ground while you're figuring out the back legs kind of thing on this. And it's all going to be air. So this is going to be communication, ideas, words. And then your whole thing is taking action and making, like, really marching through time efficiently. And I think that this idea of this image might actually serve your clients in some way, or at least the mood of it. And so that's what I'm seeing here. Kefri, what might you be able to offer here? And so what I did right now, I'm just going to stop right there. I kind of do the day-to-day mundane, how this might play out in regular life. Kefri is going to take a psychological, spiritual approach, I think. We'll see. All right.
Thank you, Alison. Firstly, the horses stands for the feminine side of a person. And the little child in the sun card is the masculinity. And I read that card like, don't start from the beginning building up your decisiveness, so to speak, for decisions, because you are fully grown up in that. You can say if you like a thing or if you don't like a thing, and so on. And the three of pentacles there, I see that this is you, Christy, in all the projects you are doing, because you are able to take each of these roles, actually. And that is also your winning side, so to speak, that you don't get stuck in one role. You can do them all, so to speak, if you need. And that is your thing that you can build on, actually. And the eight of swords, I see in the past that you have been, because she can look down and see what is on the ground, actually. And if you see, she is standing on a map, actually. And it is like you have found a way to integrate your business ideas to be a part of a bigger area, so to speak, or to be a part of the world, actually. And that has been it has been a process for you to come there, because it has been a lot of thoughts in that, because that is all the swords that she can maneuver through here without seeing, actually, because she has intuition here also, and know that she can step forward, but she is also bound here. So she stands in this situation. She can't move, as Alison also have been talking about. But then if we go to the present time, the now, it is like you are in a balance, actually. And this is also a sort of a balanced position with the crossed hands there. And it's also the position that old pharaohs have. Tutankhamun has it, for example. Yeah. And the two swords here is more of thoughts also. But looking at the Egyptian association here, we know that Tutankhamun has two tools in his hand. And one is the crook, where he he is able to be in contact with his higher intuition, so to speak, and to be recognized for that. And the other is the frail, which he can split things actually with it,
With his
because
flail.
yeah, because he can make an effect as a very decisive person and say that this is the way we should do it, and he could just clutch that tool in the table, so to speak, and say that this is what should be done here. And that is where you are now. I think you are also testing your way of ruling actually in your company or in your projects and so on. And the Knight of Wands is interesting because it looks like he holds a big matchstick in his hand, but it hasn't been lit actually. And it is like going this way, like you are doing now, and also resting in this position, so to say, in a balanced position, will get you to find the way to that enlightenment actually. And also this horse is going over the pyramids here, and the pyramids is in this card it is actually a symbol for the ego, actually, to go over one's ego, to think bigger and more altruistically. And I think that is also what's going to happen actually in the future for you. And also there is a lot of red here, and that is power, of course. And there is also salamanders here creeping around in his dress, and that is fire. So it's a fiery power in this. And I think that you already have a bit of that, but I also think you will build it gradually, because we can also see all the red in the Sun card, and that is in the cautionary position. So don't go in with full power from the beginning. Let it build up actually. And it is also in this Knight of Swords, it is like go forward also. And this card is also connected to the senses actually, and to smell things. And it is like you are able to smell when it is right to act actually, and to go to battle. And that is an intuitive tool that you can use actually, that you can feel the situation in that way. And you can also see he has a lot of red, but it is a bit redder, more dark red. So it's a bit more passive red, I would say. But this red in the Knight of Wands, you can see he's burning here in the arms also, or in the arm. So that is, it's the power actually. And I think you can handle that today, but I also think you will gradually build it to a more powerful tool for you, so to speak. And with that, we are going to look at the mysterious 7 card that I already have put on the table here. And it is the Moon card actually. And I can see that's you have also to go deep in yourself and accept your working with your shadow also, because that comes up also in this way, to find your approach to the decisiveness and the power, and how to lead people without ruling, so to speak. To not be a dictator or something, more of a leader that takes in the situation and feel what is right to do. And I think I stopped that. Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus. I'll just do a quick commentary on this
Yeah.
moon here, Christy. So one of the beautiful things about the moon is that pathway. If you look at the pathway going between those two pillars, and it just keeps going, going, going. And so all of us are on our life and our soul path. There's also that big moon, which is kind of a sun, which is kind of a moon above her. And it talks about the woman and the female in the 3 phases of life. So you've really done the woman thing kind of thing. You've been a young woman, you've been a young professional woman, now you've been a mother, and now you're a mature businesswoman, and you've had like all these 3 phases, and you're moving into the next phase of womanhood, and with that wisdom. And so during this, so as they say, new levels, new devils, as you make progress up that road, that shadow stuff. I've got a book here. Our friend from our tarot group, her psychiatrist, wrote a book. A couple of books, but this is the one. Let me see if I can find it. Never When You Want It. It's called Meeting the Shadow on the Spiritual Path. What's an example of that? An example of that is all of a sudden now it's your company, and you can either be a leader or you can be a dictator. What's a more comfortable mode? It might be more comfortable to be a dictator, but that might be your shadow kind of surging forth and having a little, airtime, a little showtime. And it might be helpful for you to just observe. And when that's happening, recognize that it's you, but it may not be the you want to present. And so how can you integrate that aspect of yourself with the you want to present and be a deeper, fuller you, but not the real killer you, Because to be a soft, wonderful mother and to be a powerful corporate mover and shaker takes a lot of different personas, and which mask you wear in each different role is a different one. And now this is a new one as you move into this new future, being your own corporation, being your own business, being your own leader. It's going to provoke all that stuff in you that probably got the buttons pushed when you were the employee. Now you're going to be on the other side of it. It might also be that you're working a lot, and so you become a bit witchy to your kids, and so you have to watch that. These are all these kinds of things that when your emotions get stirred up because money's involved, because identity is involved, because profession and our face to the world is involved, all of these things, and that is the ego. It's our professional ego, it's our personal ego, it's our fragility, it's all of these things. And so just recognize that as you move forward in this challenging path that has rewards, the challenge is internal as well as external. And most of those external challenges match exactly the internal stuff that we need to handle. And so it looks like you're ready to handle those swords with that Knight of Swords and with this Knight of Wands. It looks like you're ready to rock and roll. Just recognize that both your doggy, who's domesticated, and your wolfie, who's not, and your crustacean, who's completely unconscious, they are all going to be like, oh, with this new activity. So, or whatever crustaceans do, or something. And so that's just going to just recognize that you're not moving forward in total triumph, but you're moving forward a bit like any character, like in the Robert De Niro in The Mission. He's carrying all these like weapons on his back, and at a certain point, he's got to let it loose, but he has to acknowledge them, or he has to handle it. He has to wrestle with it for a while. It's all of us wrestling with our stuff. Like, I don't want to be a total B word, but I can certainly be that if my husband comes at me in some way that attacks my pride, for example. When my pride gets injured, I become horrible because I'm a Leo and pride is my thing, And so for you, I don't know what you're and I'm saying because it's my personality. I don't want to say everything is astrology, but certain things do go hand in hand. And you may have your things that push your buttons. Probably a messy room might push your buttons, who knows? So all of these things, just be aware of the buttons, and that the buttons are not you and you are not the buttons, and the reaction is not you. The reaction is the shadow. It's your job to understand it and integrate it as a part of you, not a denied part of you. So that's what I have to say. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Christy, you've been listening. Thank God we're recording this because it's such a fire hose of information. But what might you, is this resonating or I see you taking notes. Is this anything that feels like it's relevant to your life? I hope, but it doesn't have to be. It's always a gamble for us.
I've been taking notes and listening and hearing, being open-minded. And I must say, I am astonished about how well it fits.
Now, let's be honest to everybody out there in the world that part of the tarot process is finding things that match the cards in your own life. That's part of the process of interpretation and of doing readings for yourself and things like that. Yeah. However, objectively, if it's useful, then it's useful and it's worth thinking about, So it's just, we have to recognize that the human mind is a tricky thing. And perhaps you'll notice that I try not to put a lot of negative seeds when I read, because we do swallow them whole, and that's not a helpful thing. So there's a self-discipline in reading and a certain neuro-linguistic programming to take into account when processing these images. And in that way, I invite you and welcome you to engage your power with the Knight of Swords, to speak your truth, to be forgiving of yourself when you notice your more ferocious parts arising. Just recognize that that's part of your power, and you just have to recognize a way to contact that consciously instead of unconsciously, and use it consciously instead of letting it take you over unconsciously. And it all happens to all of us all the time. This is a process of learning. And that now is probably the time to move from indecision to action, or at least the ideas of what your next action are going to be with that Knight of Wands. So that would be my summary of the reading. Go ahead.
A few comments. When you were speaking about the different cards, I was thinking and reflecting about some things. And when you think about the advice, caution, when I saw the sun, it reflected back on me. I'm sleeping type. I like to work evenings, nighttime, because the kids are awake when the sun is up. So I try to use, I'm flexible. So I use nighttime. And where I
look at that big moon right there accompanying you. I love it. Yeah.
And this is my sleeping type, so it's okay with me. And when the kids are asleep, and many of my clients and my focus is people. I'm in Denmark, and many of my clients and people are focused in the US, in the England, West. So that's kind of fun. I do have some people I speak with, networking, who are in the East. It's almost more difficult because it's nighttime when it's, the time zones are more difficult. It's more easy when it's America. The collaboration thing is so true. As you say, Kefri, you said I could be all three of them. Yes, and that is sometimes my problem. I can do a lot of things, but it's about focus. And I like to collaborate with other people. So I am in a phase of, I'm an extrovert. I like collaborating. I like to engage with other people. I don't want to be alone. I'm used to working in big companies. And when I'm, consultant, more flexible because of my kids and after COVID, is more like finding new collaborations, new things, how to. So I am in the midst of and have been doing it for some time, but it's so true. When you spoke about the past, it occurred to me, my focus has for many years been perfectionism, quality, details, not being good enough. That fits very well with my own, ego, my own self-awareness about, that's not good enough. I can't do. And more now, I can do a lot. So it is a balancing thing. Okay, it's too much, too little. Can I? And trust in myself. So with the Knight of Wands, I remember a picture I made for a course I was doing. And I actually used a time wand to how to fix time. It's like a wand. So it's a tool. And yes, some audience said, okay, wands is just too much Harry Potter. I like Harry Potter, but it's the essence of, you can't just use a time tool as a time wand, but it's similar. You can do a lot instead of saying, oh, I can't. So I like the imaginary thing, and I love the coloring. And yes, I've always loved horses, and knights, and what's the old movie called, Ivanhoe and Shakespeare and all that. Yeah. I like
Nice.
those movies. It's one of my favorite movies. It's Ivanhoe. So
Wonderful. So, well, that's the Tarot Flow. So this is basically what it is. I like it better than small talk. It gives us a chance to talk about something a little bit more, to me, a little bit more interesting. And then it gives the person a chance to reflect on how this might be useful for them to think about in the time upcoming. And you will have the recording to go with, and you can decide whether you'd like to share this with the people in the world on the internet. And then you'll also have a chance to share more about your own life in terms of our interview show, the Follow Your Road show, which will be coming up later in June. So, Christy, I want to thank you for being here. Any final words, Kefri, as we head out? And then I'll tell you, if you stick around to the end, people, I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing in the Tarot Flow show and in our upcoming Summer Academy.
One thing, Alison, the Two of Swords there also has to do with focus, actually. So you pinpointed that, Christy.
Well, we will miss you when you're not here. We wish you much success, and I look forward to learning more about your interesting life the next time we get together on the show. And I just want to thank you so much for being here with us and for sharing your time with us today. I appreciate it. And everybody, if you are interested in pursuing this further, we're going to be starting in the summer our Tarot Flow Academy. It could be our Follow Your Road Academy. I'm not sure yet. It's taking form. It's going to be classes. It's going to be community with practice spaces. And then we're going to have some in-person, some online events, in-person events, and some travel opportunities. And so all that is debuting in the summer. Can't wait to share it with you as it comes together. And again, CHRISTY KRUSE, thank you so much for being with us. Let's take a look. Also, let me just put you up, Christy, in the focus place, because I want to make sure that everybody can see that tinyurl.com/cruise-control-DK will be your route to talk to Christy. We'll learn more about her on the Follow Your Road show. I will put her contact information in the show notes so that if you have business and systems concerns and time efficiency issues that you want cleaned up immediately by this expert and brilliant woman from Denmark, then that's where you should go, is into the show notes and over to Cruise Control DK. CHRISTY KRUSE, Kefri Kaskaravos, thank you for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.